Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever the case may be, wherever you are in this great, big, wonderful world of ours. I am Mike Miller. This is Blacklist Universe, and welcome to yet another in a long string of videos. So today I came across an article. Jim, it's on Bounding into Comics. Perhaps I should share screen. Trying to decide whether or not I should do this as a share screen or not. This is annoying advertisements and stuff. Oh my gosh, close. How do you close this thing? Okay. All right. So yeah, I'll share my screen. I'll share my screen. Everybody, hope you're doing well. Oh, let me drag this up. See if I can get this working. For some reason, I have my iPad. When I try to do try to read the chats, sometimes the chats do this weird thing where it just like jumps up and then repeats the same thing in the bottom, and I don't know what's wrong with it. Maybe it's an old iPad. I mean, okay, it's an old iPad, but yeah. So James, what's up? Victor, Pete, Chester, Busby, Timbertone, and Pixel Trader. What's up? Glad to have you guys in here. 19 viewers now. Peephole Circus, what's up? So yes. Hope you guys all enjoyed the video from last night when Ethan popped in. That was a fun little thing, and I hope you. I'm sorry for the 800 or so of you who did not win the art giveaway, but hey, Jon Del Arroz, how you doing? Hey, John, you want to get in here? This might be an interesting article for you to comment on as well if you're interested. Let me know. I can send you a link. Trying to watch U and V at the same time. Yeah, I don't know. I saw that V was on, but what are you gonna do? We're all gonna step on each other's toes at some point. Trying to watch U and V. Hey, Mike, did I win? I don't think so, unless you're using a screen name. All right, let me get John in here before we start discussing this particular article. And I hope everyone is having just the most wonderful day that they can ever remember. Twitter. Hi, Mike. Hi, John. What's up, party people? I'm sad I haven't won anything, but you can send me drawings if you want. No problem. Oh, thank you. I appreciate the offer. I'll take that into consideration. So Lone Star, let's see while that boots up. Lone Star, where are we on Lone Star, Heart of the Hero? We are at $44,289 raised by 812 backers. That is pretty snazzy. We got 6 days left. This ends, if I do my math right, this ends Sunday night, Monday morning, depending on your time zone. Yeah, I'm shooting for 80 now. I really don't know if we're gonna make it. I really hope we do. I don't, you know, I'd like to get some more. Oh, you know what? I just got some more money from a convention. Maybe I can bump up my advertising budget, and I think that helps. Maybe I could do that. Boy, there's just a list of things. If you guys got any good ideas, let me know. More stretch goals. I still need to look into getting those dog tags done. I'm not sure. That would be so sick, but I can't do it at the cost of the bills I need to pay. So I need to get to a decent level there before I can do that. Not that this isn't decent. This is obviously this. Even if I quit right now, this would very much help me, you know, tremendously. But yeah, we're not where we need to be so that I can actually breathe without problem. So all right, Twitter loaded, yay, finally. 73 Cecil. Hold on a second. Cecil just wrote something on Facebook, Twitter. I want to read it. Let's see, where is Jon? Jon Del Arroz. Why so slow, Twitter or computer? I swear my phone is faster than my computer. It's so sad. Spread the word, everybody, please. Yes, do spread the word. Oh my goodness. Oh, here we go. And smash that like. I was promised Jim Lee. You're going to get some Jim Lee in a minute. Hold on. I mean, Jim won't be here, but it is Jim Lee's. We're talking about Jim Lee, so. Hold on, John. I'm trying to get this. My computer is so slow. Oh my gosh, is there something else I have on here that is sucking up memory or something? No, it's just YouTube. For some reason, streaming just kills my computer's ability to do anything else. So freaking annoying. And for those of you who have a whole lot of money and don't want me to have this problem anymore, I did put I put a new MacBook Pro in my wish list. It was just a Hail Mary. It's just shot in the dark. I don't know. Nobody's ever going to buy that for me, but that'd be fantastic. Because, geez. All right. Send. I do apologize, everyone, for the slowness of my technology. I have very slow technology, and it makes everything like molasses. All right, just back to number 915 from the 951. Nice, Jim Bobo. Thank you very much. John, do you have it now? Do you have it now? Do you have it now? Wow, that was so slow. Oh, Cecil is promoting Lone Star. He put 73 years ago today, the United States dropped the first atomic bomb on Hiroshima, Japan. To show Abacus Mike that there are no hard feelings, perhaps today would be a good day to buy Lone Star Heart of the Hero. Thank you, Cecil. I much appreciate it.
Is there a stretch goal for buy you a new computer yet? I mean, this needs to happen.
I know. No. I'm working on goals to take care of much more immediate issues. So, how you doing, buddy?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Why don't you introduce yourself to those in the audience who don't know who you are?
Hey, folk. I'm Jon Del Arroz, the leading Hispanic voice in science fiction and the Indiegogo proprietor, writer, creator of Flying Sparks, which I just got out a contract to my artist for. Now that we've kind of hit this 15,000 mark, I think we're going to be able to keep this going, and we're going to try to do this as an ongoing series. So thank you, everybody, for the support so far, and I look forward to just kind of bringing you lots and lots of comics for years to come.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And for those who did or didn't get my my press release on my What is Comicsgate article, John on his blog delarose.com has posted it for. It's the go-to for me. Every time I need to post that, I just go to your site and I just grab that link and I'm like, here, read it from here.
Thank you for the free traffic. I like it.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's a good primer, however they say that. For those who, you hear these people on Twitter or on YouTube, and they honestly they have this skewed leftist propagandistic idea of what Comicsgate is about, and they are poisoning the well for people, people of goodwill who should be with us because honestly they believe what we do. But the SJWs, the hard left, they refuse to allow us to own the truth, and so I've been trying as hard as I can to get that truth out there, to get that the narrative that we are what we say we are. We are not what they say we are. You know?
Yeah, and it seems to escalate the more successful we get. I mean, I don't know if you've seen that, but as this is kind of, you know, reached points in dollar funding where people know who I am at this point that didn't a week ago, I feel like my sort of troll quotient has gone way up. I mean, have you noticed the same thing?
I've been muting trolls.
All right.
Yeah, I've been so busy. And I'm a person who took pride in like never blocking anyone on Facebook, because I've mostly been on Facebook for the past decade, and I took pride in never blocking anyone for any political ideology unless they were just being absolute douchebags. That's the only reason I ever blocked anybody. But on Twitter, I'm like, you know, I've been doing this. This has been taking my time. I have family. I have to get work done. And I'm just like, I do not have time to play with you. So I'm like, I'm not blocking them. They can still read what I say, but I'm just like, mute.
Yeah, I probably need to do a little more of that, but I'm still having a little bit of fun with it. So
that's the problem. I have too much fun with it, and then I'm just on Twitter all day long. Like I literally one day it was like a work day of me just bantering back and forth with these morons.
So you got me in here with this like very nice clickbait headline, and I hadn't heard any statements from our friends at DC. So what happened?
Okay, well, you know what? Let me share my screen, and then let's go through this article. Share. So here we have my old friend Jim Lee and Dan Didio, who honestly I've never met. But they, from their ivory tower, have decided to tell us what they think is going on and going wrong with the comic book industry. So I don't know if I want to read this.
People don't read comics anymore, and it's video games or something like that, like we usually hear.
No, let's go through it. Let's go through it. Okay. DC Comics publisher Dan Didio and Jim Lee addressed the decrease in comic book and graphic novel sales all across the channels last year. ICV2 reported the industry experienced a 6.5 decline across all channels in 2017, which I believe was around $70 million in loss. In an interview with ICV2 at SDCC, Didio fears the decline is due to an oversaturation of product.
Wow, who would be responsible for that, though?
Okay, he explains, if you're looking at the numbers, you're looking at 400 new periodicals a month. I can't even imagine the number of collections that come out a month. It's overwhelming. It's a lot of products. There's still a finite dollar in the marketplace. That's right there. That is the elephant in the room that he is completely ignoring. There's still a finite dollar in the marketplace. There shouldn't be. There should not be a finite dollar in the marketplace, because they should have been using all of this unprecedented media attention on comic dumb to blow up comic books, and they have failed to do so. And so he's going to blame it on, what did he say? Oversaturation. Okay. You know, I'm glad I'm not doing this with Ethan, because Ethan's friends with Dan, and
I've never met him, and have no ill will towards him, so I'm not.
I don't either.
Yeah, but I do. You know, these companies saying that this is pretty funny, because they've been oversaturating the market for 3 decades. I mean, how many? I was going to the store probably 2-3 months ago, and I was like, how many Batman limited series are there out right now? I mean, it seems like there's 3-4 a week. It's like, yeah, I mean, if somebody wants to collect Batman, they're not going to check out anything else. That's just kind of how it goes. And you can't collect Batman because there's just too many variant covers at this point.
Yeah, and the limitation of the dollar in the marketplace is due to decades of ignoring the fact that we need new readers.
Absolutely.
We have aged up the comic book market for the last 30 years, not making it accessible to new readers, to children. It's children who become the adults that want these things from their youth. But
I have that problem because I've got a 9-year-old, and I try to make him read comics, right?
Yeah.
And you know, I can't just give him the baseline superheroes anymore. You know, it's like I just don't feel comfortable with the amount of violence, with the amount of swearing, with the amount of sexual situations. It's like you know, when I was 9, I was picking up Spider-Man, and it was great. And you know, I mean, things in the 90s got a little on the violent side, but you still kept most of that stuff out of comics. And there's nothing for me to buy anymore. I mean, I can get him like Star Wars Adventures, but then he's got a story that is obviously dumbed down for children on purpose, and it looks like it and it feels like it, so he doesn't like it, right?
Right. And I've been making this complaint when I did Immortal 2 in 1997. I did an article in the back of issue 1 that complained about this. So this isn't like some new thing that we've discovered. This is an issue that we've had since the 90s that we have let slide for essentially an entire generation. And that's why we see this finite dollar in the marketplace that he's complaining about. And granted, he wasn't in charge, right, in the 90s.
Right.
But he's been in charge for, what, the better part of a decade? Right? Him and Jim? And Jim?
It's it should be a no-brainer, and I do agree with the oversaturation. I mean, I think it would be smart to focus like on, you know, just pare your characters down to 1 or 2 books a month, you know, at most, and make sure you have the top talent on there, and make sure you really focus your editors on making sure that those are the best books they possibly can be, rather than spreading everything thin, you know, to try to do a cash grab for a movie real quick. And, you know, in that, the mainline characters should also be accessible. I think Chuck Dixon says he tries to imagine himself at 12 years old, what he would just like be thrilled to see every time he sets pen to paper. And that's what he goes for when he writes a comic book. And that's a healthy way to look at it.
Yeah. But I think here's the funny thing is he's saying oversaturation, but I don't think he's blaming it on DC and Marvel. Let's keep it.
Okay, sure.
It's a lot of products. There's a finite dollar, blah, blah, blah. The base price for a periodical is now $3.99 for the most part. I have to believe that some of that money goes to buying books at a higher price rather than buying a wider set of books that are out there. Well, yeah, obviously. We're just keeping an eye on the market itself. It's one of the reasons why we're trying different initiatives in other areas, because if there is a sense of contraction taking place, we've got to show growth in areas that we think there's an opportunity, like the young adult market. See, they can't even just go to the kids.
Yeah, it's interesting. So the young adult market in books,
comics because I bought them when I was in 3rd grade. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. The young adult market, by the way, is very much marketed towards adults. The young adult book market is mostly actually the vast majority of I'm a book guy first, if you guys don't know. I kind of am coming over to comics because I've got my sort of book empire I'm doing. But most YA books, as they're called, are bought by middle-aged women. It is I'm dead serious. It is women in their 40s who want to like live out like a high school romance sort of drama within sort of like a fantasy setting a little bit. And that's what that market is. It is not actually young readers. Yeah. And that's where they're making a mistake here.
Oh, a huge mistake, because you're right. I agree with that. Just based on my personal experience, I mean, it may not be a whole market, market research thing, but my personal experience is you're freaking dead on accurate. And so targeting comic books at that market is never going to work.
Nope.
Never.
And you know, I mean, that's not saying there shouldn't be comics for girls or shouldn't be different things out there. I mean, there definitely, you definitely should be. But when you're trying to target something that is a large muscular dude running around in underpants who can just beat the tar out of everything, and then saying, okay, we're going to retarget this for 40-year-old women. It's not going to work.
No, and you can't bring in new readers by appealing to teenagers. You know,
No, has to go younger.
We've lost 30 years worth of kids. The entire marketplace, you go to any comic book store, it's 40-year-old men.
Yep.
And they've aged up all the books appropriately so that they could sell to those 40-year-old men. And I think they are completely missing the long-term growth potential of targeting those kids. And there are very few books. I mean, like, what was it, Super Sons or something like that?
Yeah, Super Sons.
Yeah, kids love that.
It was fantastic.
Yeah, but
and the thing is, the older storylines were not geared towards adults like this. And yet, even with characters like I wasn't particularly, super into as a kid, I can pick them up and read them now and feel like I get a pretty good story that's engaging, that's fun. We're not talking about talking down to your audience, but we are talking about, dialing up the action. So it's something that like makes your eyes go wide. We're talking about dialing down like a lot of the blood and gore, because that sort of stuff, is just traumatic. Dialing down a lot of the swearing because it just doesn't need to be there.
If you want to boil it down, it all happened because they freaking started ignoring the comics code. Yeah,
as much as everybody complained about the comics code, I remember that when the whole like we're gonna rebel against the comics code thing went down, and it did. Taking all that out really, it did that killed comics.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right. Did that just dawn on you?
Yeah, I had never.
I've been saying
never thought about years. That's crazy to think about. Wow. I've always been a big free speech guy, so it always, like I think I was in college or high school at the time, and I was like, yeah, I just want my Punisher Max series to be like everything. But that was a big turning point. Now that I come to think about it.
Yeah, and are there any comics today that are better than Days of Future Past or Simonson on Thor because they aren't under the comics code?
I mean, there's Lone Star.
Daredevil with Frank Miller. Is anything today better than those books?
I mean, there's Lone Star and Red Rooster.
Well, that's true. Okay, you got me there. All right, let's keep going here.
Cool.
Now that I've expanded your mind.
Wow. I love the comics code. Wow.
Yeah. Didio would then point to new companies who are putting out new product. If you're looking at the expansion of the market, we keep on seeing new companies being introduced every day. They seem to be coming out with a much stronger amount of content right coming out of the gate. That's not good grammar. It's not a slow buildup. These guys are coming out on the ground running. I think I think that's probably adding the burden onto the retailers, not just the product line that we do. Like we said, we're pretty consistent in what we put out, but there's just this constant introduction of new material and new companies, and they're constantly having to choose from. So see, he's actually blaming the oversaturation on new material coming in that's not theirs.
That's hilarious. I mean, this is just so funny, since Marvel and DC's strategy has always been intentionally to oversaturate the market so that there's no room for anybody else to compete with them, right?
Yeah. It's too funny. Jim Lee pipes in. DC Comics' other co-publisher believes it has to do with the waning popularity of The Walking Dead. Why can't you just close the door when you leave the room? I don't know. I think even The Walking Dead sales peak was probably prior to last year, the years before. What? The Walking Dead sales peak was probably prior to last year, the years before.
Yeah, it was a couple years ago now. That's what he's trying to say. Yeah.
That was real. I know. It's not good grammar. That was really an exceptionally great selling trade that brought in a lot of customers that were buying other material as well. As that show's popularity has waned a bit, that's impacted, obviously, sales for that book in the mass market channel. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I see I don't know. I see a lot of this stuff waning. I see the with the Avengers thing. I mean, just in my experience with conventions and a lot of people's experience with conventions, it's just it's petering out. I think we hit a zenith.
Well, they oversaturated both Marvel and DC, not just the comic shops, but they've oversaturated movie theaters and TV shows too. I mean, you've got like how many DC TV shows on CW do we have going now? Like 4 or 5? I mean, it's absurd.
I only ever watch Gotham.
You can't keep up with that many, and even if you wanted to. And so what happens is you just kind of start to tune out because you can't get the whole picture, especially when they're trying to dial all these things up to crossover events on the film level. Also, you kind of need all that background, and I know I've tuned out of a lot of the movies and TV shows.
Yeah, it's the problem of trying to milk the cow till it's dead.
Yeah, that's where we're really getting to. We have properties and characters that have had thousands of issues worth of material by hundreds of different writers and hundreds of different artists doing their hot takes on them, and you're doing these hot take fan fictions for year after year after year after year, and we're 50 plus years into this, and then now we're 2 decades into film over it. It's getting to the point where you just can't do anything with these characters, especially with that sort of illusion of change rule that the universe has to keep everything stagnant. It's it's obvious that you've done too much at that point, especially in an era where you can go back and get the trade paperbacks of pretty much all the original runs of all this stuff and just read those at this point.
Yeah. It is interesting. I hadn't thought of that, actually. Just the preponderance of material for any given property that's been out for 60, 75 years. It's almost more than you could read. I mean, if you were starting as a comic book reader now.
Oh, it for sure is.
I mean, how long would it take you to read everything Spider-Man, right?
Yeah, I mean, I won't go back and reread everything Spider-Man just because it's too daunting. I mean, just in the 90s, they really went overboard with there were like 5 monthly Spider-Man series going on at the same time at that point. And then they decided to, quote, pare it down. So they put out like 3 or 4 Amazing Spider-Man issues a month instead of having 4 different titles was the way they did it. It's like, why? Yeah, we're up to that point where it's just too much. And so you can't really get in and feel like you're getting in on the ground floor. But, we're changing that, Mike. That's what we're doing. Yeah,
it is. It's new, fresh, great material. And you know what? It's a free market. It'll stand or fall on its own. The fact that we're out here and we're pimping it and people are seeing it because of the whole overall movement, that's a great way to get them in the door.
Yeah. We got to deliver is what it comes down to. We will. Somebody made a great comment in the chat. You need a friend to recommend the good stuff to read. And that's true because you got these 5,000 issues of Spider-Man or whatever, right? That I don't know how many total exist for real around there. And, with the quality is so all over the map because the creative teams are all over the map. So you really need to pick and choose the best 300 if you're going to catch up and read. And that's really hard to do and really daunting to even look at just from that perspective of which one do I choose?
Right. Yeah. Just thinking about it, I don't like the multiple times. It makes sense with X-Men because you're splitting up teams. You can have, you could have 3 or 4 X-Men teams, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of characters.
4 Avengers teams or something like that. But having 4 Superman, even though I worked on Superman when there were 4 Superman titles, it still didn't make any sense. And you know what sucks about it? I have the Superman Emperor Joker trade because they sent it to me because I was working on Adventures of Superman at the time. It's one storyline that ran through 4 books. So, you got an issue of the storyline every week, but it's 4 different writers, 4 different art teams.
Oh, it's awful.
When you collect it as a trade, it's terrible. I hate buying trades like that.
It's unreadable. And it always bugged me, especially as a kid going in, because I'd buy, maybe I'd be, picking up Superman, but not Man of Steel, right? Yeah. And so I'd pick up Superman, then I'd find out in the store or I wouldn't find out in the store. I'd buy my book, I'd go home, I'd read my book, and then I'd find out at the end of it, oh, to be continued in Man of Steel number, 263. Right. And then I'd go back the next week, and by the time I get in there, it was already sold out, and I couldn't finish the story.
Yes.
Flipping
hated that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was okay for like an occasional thing where you're like, X-Men continued in Alpha Flight, and you're trying to bring people into this new thing. But when you're just trying to milk people to get both of your ongoings, it's like that's just annoying. I mean, crossovers are great when done, in moderation. Everything
in moderation, and then you just have to be very careful about it to just maintain the integrity of the original properties. And the thing is, they don't just do that, but they don't just unmoderate the fact that they do too many crossovers. I mean, there's a crossover every year now, and it just stops the books dead in their tracks. But the problem is they also bring too many. They're not moderate in the amount of characters they bring into it. So maybe if you have a 3 or 4 book crossover, it does something interesting. And the Bat titles have done this very well to a lot of times. But you do these cross universe crossovers, and then you stop a whole book, and the character of the book only shows up for like 2 panels. I mean, that's what we end up seeing so much. So they just milk it too much, both in the amount that they do, and then wide across the line also.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Lee also pointed out. Sorry. Lee also pointed to bad store traffic at Barnes & Noble, where they had been seeing higher returns on the book side. I'm sure they won't blame that on quality either. Right, but it was something that was endemic of brick and mortar in general. I think they had a very soft fourth quarter last year. Also, we were past the first wave of rebirth trades. From year to year, we had a much stronger 2016 versus 17 in terms of book trade product. That was primarily it, I think.
So what I'm getting is they need to relaunch with an all-new #1 again.
Apparently, yeah. It's like, hey, I have a novel idea. Why don't we restart our entire universe? Yeah, the rest of this is kind of yeah, blah 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 technical stuff. So yeah, I mean they are so. Am I back on? Where's my thing? All right, cool. Thanks. It's like they're oblivious. Like I said, they are living in their ivory towers. They are viewing this entire landscape from a blimp. They're not getting down on the ground with the soldiers, the foot soldiers, with the, they're not going into comic stores and talking to fans. You know who they're not reaching, or who they're not talking to, is the people that I talk to every single day who said they've left comics decades ago because of all of this crap. And I mean, like, not just the SJW crap, but everything we've been discussing, right?
Yeah, it's been across the board. And I've gotten so many different emails and instant messages and things like that from people who, it started when I started writing sci-fi. They say, I quit sci-fi just because like they are not putting out product that I like. And I used to read sci-fi in the 80s, Orson Scott Card's Ender Game and all this stuff. And I just quit because they just didn't seem to want to care about me as a customer. And now I'm getting the same messages in comics. Like, I never read comics for years, and I'm going to pick up yours. I don't read comics, but I read your sci-fi books, and I understand that you're going to put care into the characters and stuff like that. And that's what people want. They want to understand and feel that there's going to be care put into the characters.
Yeah. Every day I get it. Every day from different people. It's phenomenal. It's like there's this wave of people who've been standing on the sidelines waiting for us to do this literally for decades. And now they're coming in and they're throwing 25, 50, 100, or more dollars at us just to get one comic book, or a couple comic books, or whatever it is. That's how hungry they are. It's great. I mean, it's great that they're out there, and it's great that the comic book industry kind of pushed me out to where they are to go find them. I mean, obviously with Ethan taking lead, DNC taking lead. But but just revealing this ghost fandom that I had this sense, you know, that like I said, I've been talking about this for 30 years. I've been complaining about this for 30 years. And it's like real and visceral now, because all those people that I've been talking about who've just been shedding off comicdom are now contacting me daily and telling me that, you know, I'm one of those guys. I'm coming back. You're bringing me back. Ethan's bringing me back. DNC's bringing me back. John's bringing me back. You know, all of this. It's great. Yeah, there's one right there. Yes, Mike, we've been waiting a long time for this. Don't screw it up.
Woo. We'll do the best we can. I mean, the good news is, you know, you can see all of us are so passionate about our characters, and that's going to drive a long way. I really think a lot of the times, you know, you get on these professional books, and even if you had a passion for the character once, you know, when you get forced into the rules and forced into the events and forced into a situation where you can't really progress a character, you're going to lose that passion to some extent, and it's going to become a job. And for us, I think you know, we're doing this out of love, and then the job kind of is a second thing. We want it to be a job, but we want these characters to come first and everybody to be happy.
Yeah, it's the dream come true. I've been wanting to do this. Like I said, I've been planning Blacklist for a good while now, and I've been building these characters up, in some cases for 30 years, right?
Awesome.
So I've got a lot to do, and this is just the first. Lone Star is the cornerstone from which I will build my great temple.
Beautiful. Yeah, I'm kind of taking a little different route. I don't have a universe I'm so much going through. My next project is going to be just a military science fiction graphic novel. So I'm going to try to take this all over the map and kind of bring my sort of book expertise into this, so that we can kind of, you know, I think something missing from comics in the last 20, 30 years too is really different genres also, right? Mm-hmm. So we've been very focused on the superhero, or even, you know, just or horror. There's a lot of horror out there too, but you know, there used to be science fiction and Western and romances, and they all did very well. And there's room for a lot of sort of just breadth going out there. So,
well, interestingly, I mean, if you look back at Atlas was horror and science fiction, and then then when the superhero genre took off, they merged the horror and the science fiction into a superhero universe, which is kind of what I've done with Blacklist, because all of my different ideas, I mean, like
all of them out.
Yeah, Lone Star is based on an old vampire trilogy I had called Bloodborne.
That's right.
Right, and so it was a horror story, but I'm merging it in with a superhero character, but it's still a vampire-based. Well, this particular story arc is a vampire-based thing. And so it is kind of like the birth of Marvel, because I'm taking even though I hadn't published all of this stuff, I'm taking all of this stuff, fantasy, kids' books, blah, 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 and I'm trying to bring them into a singular universe, so that singular universe, it's a hero universe, but I want it to have all the different overtones, the categories that, you know, people who love horror will love this book. People who love science fiction will love this book. You know, it's beautiful. It's not just, and I think that's why Marvel was a hit like that, because you know,
you had a little something for everybody, right?
A little something for everybody.
Yeah. Everybody. And that's the big thing the diversity push misses. There should be something for everybody, right? And you know, it doesn't matter. Nobody really in Comicsgate is talking about we don't want black heroes and all that. That's not true. We do. Most of us actually talk about how Silencer's been our favorite book over the last couple years out of DC, and you know, there should be something for everybody. It's just in their sort of quest for their political diversity or whatever, they've created things that actually all look the same. And every book exactly has the same message, exactly has the same plot, exactly has the same structure. exactly is fitted for a 6-book graphic novel. You know, everything is looking exactly the same, and there is no differentiation anymore at these companies.
It's a machine.
Yeah, but we're doing it, so I'm happy. I've got the IndieCron updated today.
Oh, has it? Where's it at?
So we are at, as a group, we are now collectively at 1.37 million.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. We're gonna get to 2 pretty quick.
I think so.
Dennis Peruch, how will you distribute comics beyond Indiegogo? I haven't gotten there yet. So I don't know. I might go like contact Ingram or Diamond. But honestly, I get one step at a time for me. So we'll work on that.
On my end,
I know a lot of publishers too, and a couple of them would probably pick up my books if I wanted to go that route. But not sure yet.
On my end, I'm going to be putting out my my individual issues through Arcaven Comics, Vox Days company. So.
Anti-man, what? I think everyone in the chat is just talking to each other.
That's good. That means we got a community here.
Yeah. Everyone wants Godsword art. Mike, support the Lone Star here, Heart of the Hero. Yeah, I'll at some point in the future maybe I'll doodle one up and put it in the back of Lone Star. Did you hear about my Godsword character?
No, tell me about it.
No. Every time I talk about it, everybody wants me to look. It's all over the thing. Godsword, 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 Godsword. So about 14, 15 years ago, I created this character. Her name was Eden. I named her after my daughter, who is now 15. So
cute.
And she's the daughter of a Jewish archaeologist and an Ethiopian, I don't know, tribeswoman or something. I can't remember. It's like I said, I wrote it a long time ago. And they were on a dig, and she found the flaming sword that guarded the Garden of Eden. Long story short.
Sweet.
And the sword is imbued with like a cherubim, the spirit of a cherubim within the sword. And so it's like a super powerful artifact. Yeah, hijinks ensue. And
that's awesome.
I'm gonna have, back then I was doing the breakdowns on it, and I was having Paolo Pantalina finish it. I don't know if you're familiar with his work.
I am, yeah. Cool.
Yeah. And I talked to him at San Diego this year, and I'm like, hey man, if I could get you like a really good page rate, would you want to, go back and do Godsword? And he's like, yeah, man.
Nice.
Because yeah, I hired him to do this before he'd ever worked for anybody.
That'd be hilarious. Cool.
Now he's like, Mr. DC Big Shot over there in Italy, and he's a great guy, and he'd be great to get on there. So the quest for the Tree of Life. Oh, that's funny. Tor Strange to ask the quest for the Tree of Life. I actually had the idea that, because the Tree of Life is like, it grants eternal life, so therefore it should have eternal life, right? I was thinking
somewhere out there. Yeah. Didn't they do a movie on that? Like it was like a dark movie. It was a really dark movie like 10 years ago. I can't remember what it was called. And it was it was kind of the opposite, because you'll take like a good Christian theme to it. They did not take a Christian theme to it. They took like it was kind of just left you feeling icky at the end of the movie. But interesting. I think that'd be a fun concept, right?
Yeah. And it would play in with the flaming sword too. So possible. But we already had Ben Aber and I were working on this book together. I don't know if you know Ben. He's a great writer. He's worked on a lot of things with me. He's worked on Lullaby, Imaginaries. He's the adapter of all the Hedge Knight and Sword and
The Fountain. Yeah, somebody brought up the name. There you go. Okay. Yep.
The Fountain.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I've actually read the Hedge Knight. So
Yeah. Well, Ben did the adaptation of that.
Rock
so.
on.
Yeah, I'd probably want to bring him back in to work on Godsword too, because it is a cool idea, and yeah, I made the character half black and half Jewish, even though I didn't care about diversity. It was served the story.
Yeah.
How weird, right? It's like, you mean you had a guy? He was on the continent of Africa.
Just making characters for the sake of it.
Yeah. So let's see. Scroll up.
I want to get into all sorts of like old school pulpy things and like and get things going. I've done background stories for my characters, which I wrote audio dramas for, so I get like old timey radio sort of things going on for it, and did kind of a history where it goes back to the 1940s and 50s, so it feels right with that. I'd love to get that sort of thing going. I mean, I'm going to need to. I think we're not quite at a point where media tie-ins are going to work just yet, but you know, if this keeps going the way it does, you know, we could really push this genre in ways that haven't been done before.
Yeah, that's my plan. And it's funny because, like I said, it's a heroic thing, and heroes come in every genre. Heroes should come in every story, right? I mean, you go to Christopher Robin, I haven't seen it yet, but you know, there's a hero in every story. There's a protagonist. Yeah. And playing it up in a comic book universe like Godsword, I mean, in a sense, you could say it's a superhero story, but really it's not. It's going to be more along the lines of a Tomb Raider-esque.
Yeah, and that's cool.
With you know, this powerful artifact, and then there's other people who are after the artifact. So sort of a well, I say Tomb Raider because she's a girl, but you know, it's Indiana Jones meets like a real artifact, and it does give her powers, and it doesn't like cover her body half naked like Witchblade or something. It's like, you know, something really cool.
That's too bad. We were looking for that.
No, sorry. You're gonna have to look for Blue Mamba.
Blue Mamba, right?
Yeah, it's funny. Because Edwin and I were saying the other night how we really like Jim, and we like the book, and it's really great. I mean, it's well done, but for our personal reasons, we can't really support it, so to speak.
I'm definitely supporting it. I'm putting out a content warning when I do, and I just say, look, this is lewd, and you know, my readers are not going to want to, you know, a portion of them will not want to go to a lewd thing. Some won't mind, and I want the ones that won't mind to check it out and support these guys because they're good people. So
yeah, I mean, that more or less that's what I meant. But when he was on Ethan last night, and I was stoked to see them get funded. Like, they're funded already, you know. He was so close to funding last night, and then today, when I saw it today, I believe he was already funded. So that was, you know, I'm glad to see it. I don't want to say I'm disheartened that I can't help, but it, you know, you got to draw the line.
I understand. Yeah, I totally understand. So yeah, I'm trying to keep things PG. I think all of my books are PG coming up. I just like staying in that space. Maybe it goes PG-13, mild violence. You know, I don't know. I don't know where do you draw the line on violence for PG to PG-13? What do you think?
Comic book violence? Yeah, it's like, it's a drawing. It's not like visceral or anything. And I mean, I'm not going to do something like completely gory, but it's not like I'm going to pretend that 8-year-olds don't know what blood looks like.
Right. Yeah. It's true story. Yeah.
Like, Mommy, I cut my finger. Oh no, don't look at it, honey. It's PG-13.
It's interesting because in movies they definitely, like, you know, they've made all the Star Wars movies now PG-13, and I don't think they seem that much worse than the older Star Wars movies, but it's because of the amount of CGI people they have die. There's just too much death, and that's how they do the rating, I guess. Yeah. Yeah.
I often think those rating systems are just
arbitrary.
Yeah. It's like it's PG-13, so you can have one F word. It's like, why?
Yeah.
What? It's like,
yeah. Just
I don't want to take my kid to a movie because it's got the F word in it.
Right. one of them doesn't make it okay, right?
Cross Comic says, I have a character similar to God's Sword. Mine is simply the sword.
Cool.
Yeah, but I came up with mine 14 years ago.
Oh. Yes, somebody accused
me.
Oh,
he said he came up with this from an old He-Man show.
Somebody accused me of copying like the recent Century run that was out this year with my character design. I'm like, I commissioned my character design over 10 years ago. I mean, I didn't have a book then, but I've got it. So I really doubt that the recent Century had any influence on that whatsoever. It's interesting how people want to go to certain criticisms, I guess.
Yeah. Adam says comics decline because there is a larger competition of cheaper portable media. And to an extent, that's true, but you have to keep in mind there are more people now. So even if the percentage of people reading declined, we still could have maintained a pretty large body of new readers had we been hooking kids on this stuff when they were in first, second, third grade.
Yeah.
You know, we were not taking the correct crack dealer mentality as comic book producers and publishers and whatnot, because it is, yeah. I mean, how many of you in the chat started reading comics before you were a teenager?
I definitely did. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That was the attraction. I mean, you know, for a lot of us, it was the first things we started reading with pleasure, right? It's like, you know, a lot of kids don't want to read books, but it's like you slap a comic book in front of them. You know, my kids would read Calvin and Hobbes all night, like every night. It's crazy stuff. So
yeah, I think I started with, you know, I always call Spider-Man my first comic book, but now that I think about it, I mean, really, it's Garfield that got me going, because I was reading those from when I was 5. So yeah,
Garfield, Peanuts. What else was out back then? Yeah, Calvin and Hobbes didn't come out till I was in high school, and I read it in high school. Age 4. Calvin and Hobbes was my first. Yeah, Calvin and Hobbes is a great entry point for the comics.
Absolutely.
You know?
You got everything. You've got a little kid with a little stuffed doll. I mean, there's so much relation there, right?
Yeah. First comic was Just Say No Program Teen Titans in 4th grade. Yeah, you remember when DC and Marvel used to do a lot of those like promotional things, like Heroes for Hope.
Yeah. I have the Spider-Man issue of the anti-drug one whenever that was out. Yeah.
And they just give those out everywhere. I think, you know, that kind of an outreach, man, we're just missing it because there's no outreach to kids.
Right.
They literally should have been giving out comics of every single one of these Marvel movies. It would have been an insignificant cost compared to their other marketing.
Oh man, that'd be so amazing.
Right?
Like it just makes a ton of sense. And you see musicians starting to do this sort of thing. Like they at their concerts give download codes for their new album or whatnot. You know, especially, you know, kind of older guys who, you know, their albums aren't selling like they used to. So that way, you know, you get people at least checking out the new music. And really, what does it cost you to do that?
Yeah. And he is making a good point, but a lot of, you know, there's a lot of digital things that video games, but there were video games when we were kids too. They just weren't so time consuming. There's only so many times you could play Super Mario Brothers 2.
I still haven't reached that limit. I don't know.
I did the whole level in 2 minutes 51 seconds. Let's see if we can go better. It's like, oh my gosh, how many times? But and that's another issue, and that's why I don't know if you have a digital version release on yours.
I do. I'm very happy to. I think, you know, I think it's kind of a mistake not to have a lower price point, just because, you know, one, it allows people to go wide so that they can both support my book and your book, you know, if they want to get as much content as possible. And it, you know, it's just something that is easier for sort of younger generations to read, because a lot of them don't buy print books.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at the readership on webtoons or you know, some of these web comics still. I think a lot of the web comics audience has moved over to webtoons because they can just read it on their phones, and they have the I don't know. Do you follow anything on webtoons?
I don't. I'm aware of it because I originally tried to launch as a webcomic and tried to do it that way. And I found there was very, very difficult to monetize. I mean, there was, you can try for ads, but you're not going to get much. And, and it just didn't make sense for me financially. So that I kind of dropped even attempting to do it that way. But on the book side, I would say 90 to 95% of my readership is ebook. So I'm used to a mostly digital market, and people do it for because they love reading on their devices, and because the price point's so much lower because you don't have to print it. So it's just kind of a win for everybody, and then they can check out even more content, like I said. Yeah.
Yeah, and I try to tell these. Sorry, fly. I try to tell these other guys and the older guys that it's like, no, I want to hold it in my hand. I understand that. I don't like reading comics on my phone either, but my daughter, 15 years old, it's all she ever read. Well, that's not true. She's got a bunch of manga in her room too, but it's manga or it's stuff she's reading on her phone.
Yeah.
Right. And there's millions of people out there reading webtoons, webcomics, whatnot. Let me give you a longer term concept on the webcomic thing. When, I don't know, 10 years ago or so, I did a comic book called Electronic Tigers. And, I was doing some cross promotion with some other web comics like Sore Thumbs and not Penny and Aggie. No, Jatois. Just because I knew these people, because I was working with them on as a comic representative for WoWio, which I don't want to get into. And so over the course of about 8 months, I got my daily readership up to 40,000 daily unique users, right? In 8 months. And all I was doing, I was doing one strip a day, and then I would, like this, right? Kind of like YouTube, where you have a chat room. Underneath, you have the comment section, and I would interact with the fans every single day.
Absolutely.
Draw one thing, interact with the fans. And it built up, and it built up, and it built up. And had we not ended it, I mean, if I had just maintained 40,000 regular guys and then said, hey, let's, I'm going to go to press with this, and, 10% of them or whatever decided they wanted to buy the physical copy of the book, 10,000 copies on a graphic novel is huge.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. So, I found some kind of the same thing. I was going a little faster, but your daily content model is the most important part of that. Daily content is everything, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on a comic strip like that, because I was doing once a week. And I mean, my art is pretty pro. I mean, Jethro's a pro guy. And I did that, and I would get about 3,000 readers a week at my peak. And it's because of the weekly thing. Now I got an artist who's an amateur to because we needed a buffer, because you know how these things go. You get behind and then you stop doing it on the webcomic end. He did a full issue of like a side story for me. And he wasn't nearly as good of an artist, but because I posted it every day during that time period we were building the buffer, I was getting 3,000 to 4,000 a day instead of 3,000 to 4,000 a week. So daily content's really the game. Yeah. Keeping it up's hard though.
Yeah, and so I'm trying to take all of this stuff that I've learned in every avenue. I've gone into all these different avenues in comicdom, from webcomics to digital publishing to, publishing with that Alias, and then, obviously being a pencil jockey for Marvel and DC, doing my own book at Image. I'm trying to take everything that I've learned and apply it to what we're doing here and now, and trying to build out a future that, those two guys we were talking about earlier in their, I did misspell Didio. I said Dan Dido. That they're just not seeing from their ivory tower.
Absolutely.
Right? And yeah, it's not the first time And I don't know.
Now I've got a question. So for the future, so we're obviously carving out a chunk that honestly, as this progresses, is going to actually take into a chunk of the business as well. I don't know what percentage it's going to end up being, but it's going to be substantial as this grows, because we're in moment one. I mean, these businesses. I'm a businessman first. And I have a degree in business, so this is my primary way of looking at things. A business takes 3 years to get going, and we are in year one, like moment one. We haven't even begun to start, and we're already like massively profitable compared to you know. Usually a business loses big its first year, loses a little its second year, starts to break even and get that hump its third year, and we're bucking that trend big time here. So as this goes on, it'll be interesting to see, because I've talked to a lot of Kickstarter people who've done kind of indie comics on Kickstarters for years, and they say, well, we got to be careful about how much content we put out there, because you know you can't dip that well too many times. But in a growing market, that might not be the case. Do you think that this has the legs to kind of buck the trends of everything else?
I do, because we're bringing in new people. Yeah. Whereas the comic book market is trying to squeeze blood out of the same beet that they've been squeezing for 30 years, 40 years, right?
Yeah.
And we're bringing back all the people that they've shed and they just didn't care about, you know. And that is the kind of recurring theme in our cabal, right? Is we care about our customers.
Yeah.
We care about what they want. And it's so clear for Marvel and DC that that's not where their interest lies, right? And so we are picking back up all these people, and I see this as a growing pie, and possibly even a renaissance for comicdom itself. I mean, that might be pie in the sky talk, but I really see it as a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at where we're at, I mean, so even if in the main comic industry, it seems like the top book can get about 100,000 sales. Is that about right?
100 or more. There's really,
yeah, somewhere in there.
I checked recently, but it's like the top 5 books can break 100, and then the rest it's all.
And our top books, on looking at my IndieCron right here, have 10,000. So we're at and if those are new people, that means that we still have not been exposed to 10 times the amount of the market that's out there already.
Yeah, and that's just the old market,
right?
We're bringing back in a new market. Yeah. So, Dynamo asked, the biggest issue that is shipping costs is that shipping costs are non-sustainable. I'm gonna look into that. Like I was saying that, you know what, if I could get the sales on these books to a level where I'm comfortable with that I'm going to make enough to, sustain myself, maybe invest in some other projects and whatnot. I don't need to make $500,000.
Right.
Right. So if I can get to that level and figure out essentially the cheapest way to deliver this product, I still think mailing books, like subscriptions, might be one of the best ways to go, because this can be sent media mail, and you send media mail in a flat mailer, I'm fairly certain you can get it for a reasonable price. And then if we're doing this on a mass scale, you could probably get those mailers way cheaper, because mailers are expensive.
Yeah, everything has an economy of scale to it. That's what people got to realize.
Yeah. But if we're buying like 100,000 flat mailers, we'll probably get them for dirt.
Yeah. And printing cost of the book is the same way. I mean, if I have to print 500 copies of my book, which I'm probably going to have to now, it's going to be 1 point per book. But if I get my sales up to 1,000, that price drops drastically per book. So as we grow, it'll be a big difference for what we can charge and how we can do this.
Yeah, I got a price I got a price check for 5,000 on a 32 self-cover book, and it ended up being 62 cents per book, which is not the book I'm doing, but it was someone else sent me this because of what they were doing. And then if you double your print run to 10,000, it drops to 41 cents a book. So your books are 50% cheaper to print by doubling your order.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm probably going to overprint a little bit so I can have stuff to sell at cons and do it a little cheaper. But yeah, I mean, basically the way to make sure our projects are cheaper in the future is frankly to just back us with all you got now. I hate to say it, but this is how we're going to get going.
Well, also keep in mind, if you are planning on doing further Indiegogos, like this isn't a one and done thing, right? You're going to be doing this. I'm going to be doing mine quarterly just for Lone Star. So
absolutely.
Right. So I'm going to overprint. I don't know how much, but whatever left I have, I'll make those available in the second order.
That's what I'm doing too. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that not only gives me another higher price point thing for newer readers who, because, you know, by the time I get to my next one, I'll probably have, you know, 3 times as many subs on YouTube, 3 times as many people wanting, you know, interested in my stuff. So I'll have a whole bunch of new guys who will want to buy Lone Star next time around. I mean, I only have 1,300 subs right now, and it's like, you know, and I'm at $44,000. So
yeah,
it's fantastic. It's fantastic. This very small, very loyal cadre of Lone Star Squadron. They're my team, man. They's the good ones.
Yeah. So that's cool. That's cool that you're gonna be able to do this quarterly. Well, I have a full-time job. So it's something I don't know how fast I'm gonna go. It's not your full-time job? Oh,
this is my full-time job.
This is your full-time job. That's where you're at. Yeah.
Talking to my fans and drawing comics. That's what
I'm definitely not there yet. And Flying Sparks, while it's doing better than I thought, I mean, if you look at all the projects, like I'm kind of like the top creator who's not a former pro who like, you know, has worked at kind of the big companies before. Yeah. And I'm very blessed for that. And I thank you guys so much. Right. But there is definitely a tier difference in what I'm making versus what the pros are making, even at this juncture. So it is a little harder. We'll see how it goes. You know, I mean, I think as we deliver, you know, people will get a little more comfortable, and that makes sense. I mean, you should have a more loyal following because your art is known. Everybody knows you're fantastic. You know, everybody's seen you for decades. Just put in just like a beautiful, beautiful work. And so Lone Star is going to reflect that, of course. Come on, we're going to be honest. And I am an unknown, and it makes sense, right? So yeah, I'm excited to get these out into people's hands. I mean, I think that's going to be it'll be fun seeing the reactions. When is Lone Star going to be out?
I'm going to do everything I can to make sure it hits in September.
Like printed in September or digital?
No, in hand.
Oh, in hand in September. Wow.
That's my goal. So the only way I will fail on that goal is if I go through a printer who can't deliver within like a 2-week span or something like that.
Okay.
If I can get a printer, because I know I can get it done by the beginning of September.
Cool.
Right. Well, then, gosh, I'd have to count on my colorist getting it done too. But he's reliable. But say he gets it. Yeah, I'd want to have him here and shipping mid-September. And you know, I'm not going to have 10,000. I'm probably going to have 1,000, 1,500 maybe. So it's not going to take me a month to ship. But yeah, my goal is to have everything out and shipped. I mean, people overseas might not get it in September. Yeah. But yeah, I'm going to do absolutely everything possible to get this in people's hands by the end of September.
Cool. That's fast. Yeah, I'm kind of I've got all the art done on Flying Sparks. So I'm going to rename characters because I've got to name a character back backing spot at that point, and that's going to be my only hiccup, and then printing and distribution. So that'll be interesting. I'm gonna be spending my nights doing envelopes for a while, but that's part of the game. I think we gotta do like streams of us like actually like filling out envelopes and stuff like that. We got to show that we're hardworking men and not just these like lazy artists.
Yeah, I've got a friend who has a chiropractic business here in town, and one of his rooms is dormant, generally dormant. So I'm probably gonna ask him if I can
stash stuff.
Buddy, can I use your room and just?
Can I get Can I stack 1,000 books in your room?
1,000 books doesn't take up that much space, but
that's true.
It's all the packing and shipping and laying things out and signing stuff and letting them dry. And I see pictures of my friends who have done Indiegogos and just floor space covered with things they've had to sign and let dry. And it's like,
awesome.
I don't want to do that to my house. My wife would kill me. But yeah. All right, let me see. I'm a work in progress. Long-term, some sort of joint shipping, printing, fulfillment arrangement that takes advantage of economies of scale of like the entire Comicsgate community. Yeah, I am completely not opposed to that. I think we should.
Someone set up a fulfillment service.
And I really think that a subscription model might be the way to go over, maybe even over direct market sales, because some of these guys may not even want to, go to the local comic shop. A lot of these guys don't have local comic shops. They've, there's like less than 2,000 now in the entire country.
Ah, so sad.
Yeah. And
yeah,
they did.
and I like your subscription model idea. That's pretty cool. I'm hesitant to use something like Patreon that just charges monthly, just because those deadlines are kind of tough to hit. So we'd have to find some like a subscription store that just charges as we're ready, almost, right?
Well, I'm thinking off the cuff here. But after I complete Lone Star as, the 3 books, I think I'll have a really good grasp on what costs can be cut and what we can do to make a subscription model feasible for like the next project. So if I move on to Nuclear Family or Godsword or whatever it is I am doing next, I can make it an offer in the first tier, or the first of 3 Indiegogos, whatever it's going to take to do the next series, and I'll say, hey, first thing you can buy is just the subscription, because then I'll know exactly how much it costs, and then they'll get those books quarterly, and they can just pay up front for the whole shooting match.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and I'm kind of just guessing at this because I've never done anything like this before. So I'm hoping that we can kind of condense value next time, and especially if we know we've got 500 backers or 1,000 backers that are going to come and be loyal to us or whatnot. Right. It makes it a lot easier because I can project the art costs on top of things early on. I can count on a certain print run, and so the numbers aren't guesstimates as much as they are like, okay, I know what the actual numbers of the costs are going to be.
Yeah,
which makes things easier too.
Guesstimate, it was just a complete shot in the dark.
Yeah, right.
I'm just that's where we're at. I really hope I don't fall on my face in this and waste a lot of time and then lose my house.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, right.
So seems to be going good.
Yeah.
Now my MacBook's overheating now. What have you done? You might have given me a curse here.
It's a virus. I sent it to him. All right. Well, I think we've milked this particular subject. I'm going to probably get on a little later and do a live drawing, but I can't do that. I can't do that here because I have to do it with my iPad, and you can't screen share anyway. So thanks, Jon Del Arroz, for being here, special guest, as we discussed Jim Lee and Dan Didio.
Thanks.
Not understanding what the problem in comics is.
Yeah, but that's why we're here to fix it.
That is right. All right, brother. I'll
Cheers.
talk to you.
Thanks for having me on.
Later.
Yeah.
Yep.
Talk to you soon.
All right, brother. Aloha.